Judy Goldsmith is a prize-winning mentor and teacher who teaches, and I can't do that. I am a computer science professor. I've been here, I think, 23 years. I am a prize-winning mentor. I just found out last month I'm getting a national computer science undergraduate mentoring award. Right before I came up for tenure in '99, I got a mentoring award from the IAAS, which is American Association for the Advancement of Science. IAAS, by the way, is a very cool organization that publishes Nature and Science and Cell and various other journals you probably want to look at and someday publish in. They also do some advocacy for science at the government level, which is pretty fabulous in today's political climate, the know-nothing party and all. So I'm a computer scientist, and I've done a lot of mentoring. I started when I was in college. I had a group for women in math, and that included both grad students and undergrads. And I was mentoring graduate students when I was an undergrad. When I was a depressed and barely functioning undergrad, by golly, we were meeting in what turned out to be John Nash's bedroom, which was the lounge outside the women's bathroom in the basement of the math building in Princeton. If I'd realized someone lived there, I probably wouldn't have met. We probably wouldn't have met there, but it was a nice space. Especially if I'd realized a crazy man lived there. So I want to talk about mentoring, and I know you've got assigned mentors, right? Have you met with them? And you've designed an animal or something? Or not?
Different kind of creativity that I just don't have.
That's funny. The mentors I talked about said, I'm not doing that. So I want to talk about what is mentoring, how can you make it work at both an individual and a systemic level. So what do you guys want from a mentor?
I think that, to me, a mentor is someone who guides you, and that's something that I really need. I feel that I really need my undergrad right now, is some guidance in finding opportunities and how to, whenever, I'm trying to find the words, and like being a woman in STEM, how that's going to affect me in the future and how to conquer those issues. Because I may not come up with certain issues now, but I'm going to encounter them later in life.
Right.
I guess I'm kind of looking for the same thing, just someone to point me in the right direction on, path to where I want to go.
Yeah, and I guess mine's like the same thing, like pointing me in the right direction, and also like kind of like pushing me on the days where I'm like, oh, I'm the only girl in my CS class today, like I can't do this, like everybody's looking at me weird, like someone just to be like, you can do it, just keep going.
So a cheerleader. What about you?
I need proper guidance. I feel like I came from Sri Lanka. So when I came here, I didn't have any guidance about in my field how to write fellowship, how to apply for like positions. So I'm here because without any guidance, I just followed the path. But looking back with my view, I would have that much better. So I think getting the proper guidance at early stage of your education or career is much helpful for your advancement of career, I would say.
So let me see. We've got you want someone to point out opportunities. You want a little bit of emotional support, a little bit of reality check. Yes, you are the only girl in your CS class, and yes, they are looking at you like an alien creature because they haven't seen one in a while. Yeah, that's true. It's not your imagination, and that's not a reason that you need to drop out or anything. You want guidance in your career path. You want some cultural information, departmental information, opportunity information. Wow. You going to get all that from your mentor? For the three of you, the one that was assigned to you?
I mean, there are a variety of mentors out there, not just this mentor. Like, my parents are my mentor as well. And then I have an older sister who is my mentor as well. Like, a mentor in general fills various roles, and there are various mentors in my life anyway who are filling those roles. It's nice to have another mentor for another aspect.
Cool. Are any, did you say you were in biology?
Biology and neuroscience.
Do any of your family members work in that area?
No, so this is really nice.
Cool. So they're not scientists at all, but they give you the emotional support.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. It's really nice. And some of us, our family's input was, great, when are you going to graduate and come home? I don't think I am. You didn't say that out loud, did you? No, me either. At least not to my parents. So, yes. Remind me of your name.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, what you're saying that there are many roles. This is really important because we have this idea that there is the guru mentor, and I'm quoting from the National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity from a particular writer, Carrie Ann Rockmore, who's written about this, about the idea that we want to have one person. And she's got a bunch of columns online where people write to her and say, I'm not getting everything from my mentor. Yeah. That's true. Because mentors, you know, one person may know how to apply for fellowships and may be able to tell you which fellowships you're most suited for. That would be fabulous. That's really lucky if you get one of those. But then might tell you, suck it up. Because that was what got her or him through. Does your mentor have to be a woman? No. Is it nice to have another woman you can talk to? Yeah, usually. Are all women going to be that person? No. I went to one of my second postdoc. There were 2 women in the department. Each of them took me out to lunch and said, thank God there's another woman in the department. I was just there for 1 year. They didn't talk to each other. They'd had some big fight and they were no longer speaking. And it just made me so sad because they were so pleased to have another woman. And they weren't even trying to put me in the middle of the fight. They were grown-ups about that. And they did eventually make up, but not all women are going to be your mentor. Not all women are going to have any of the skills. Carefully checking my quantifiers there. Some women won't have any of the skills you need. Some of them will have one. So you might find somebody who is great at reading your papers and giving you feedback. I generally show my papers to at least 2 people, one of whom proofreads and one of whom says, you've got to be kidding, you're putting yourself down, you need to put yourself forward, you need more ideas, expand this section. Completely different reads, both really useful. And that's just for papers, grant proposals. So I wanted to give this out, which I found on the same site. There's an extra page in the back with some notes from that column. So these are some of the things, I'll take that back, that a mentor can do for you. And this is, again, aimed at faculty. Because one of the things that's really nice to have, if you can have it, is somebody in the department who understands department politics, who can say, yeah, just avoid him, or these two are fighting, don't try to talk to them about something at the same time. This stuff happens. Or you are being told this explicitly, what we really mean is. And some departments, it's completely straightforward. What they tell you is what is meant. Not always. As a student, this could simply be your official advisor who tells you what you really need to do. You know, here are the regulations. Here's what you really should do. And it might be a professional advisor. It might be a faculty member. In particular, you're thinking about grad school?
Med school.
Med school. And you don't know. Okay. So you've probably read lots of web pages on what to do to get into med school, right? Doesn't hurt to ask, but you probably won't get a lot more information because there's a lot out there. On the other hand, we know how reliable the web is. So asking people, particularly if you find somebody who's on the admissions committee, who says, oh yeah, I look at it. That's much more useful. I heard a talk at an artificial intelligence conference. Somebody was talking about a computer program that pre-processes grad school applications. And you look disgusted. So the idea of the program is it predicts what the committee will say based on years and years of data. And if the program says straight out reject or straight out accept, it takes about a minute for them to verify. And mostly the program says gray area, and then they read them. So it takes maybe half of them and makes them simple. And mostly they agree with the program, not always. That's what he said. He was talking about, we look at the GREs, we look for particular words in the letters of recommendation, we look for grade, GPA, and I raised my hand and said, what about the personal statements? And he said, oh, we don't use those.
Personal, I don't know if this is the same.
It's not as important in grad school. You don't write an essay. What you do to get into grad school is you say, I like working in this area. I'm interested in professors X, Y, and Z. That's all they need. And if it's not one area, you can list more than one. Because that says, okay, let's show this application to X and Y and Z and see if they have funding. That's all that we really need. I have loved computers since I was 3. We're not hiring a 3-year-old. We're not hiring you for your ability to write vivid description, which was relevant getting into college and is no more. But who knew that? Who told you that? You had lots of counseling, I'm guessing, to get into college, and then nobody tells you that it changes. I read I have a brilliant student who wrote this essay for a big fellowship, very competitive fellowship, that described being a leaf blowing in the wind. Shred. That's not going to do it. They're looking for someone who can be a professional, not a poet. Okay, going back to mentors. It's really important to understand, first of all, that mentoring isn't going to come from one person. You need the emotional support. You need to know about opportunities. You need to navigate a department, learn about department and local culture. You need many things. You get to keep these handouts. And for the camera, if you look up MentorNet, you will probably find this. And if not, please email me, goldsmith@cs.uky.edu. There are many things and many people. If you notice on the handout, for each function, there are multiple lines where you can write in names. It doesn't have to be one person, because that one person, right when you're having a crisis, may also be having a deadline or a crisis. In fact, it's likely, because our crises tend to follow academic cycles. So having more than one person, having somebody who's not an academic, who might be on a different cycle, would be nice. So the next thing is, how do you make it work? And there's two questions. How do you find a mentor, and how do you work with a mentor? So this is, again, Dr. Rockmore's suggestion of approaching somebody. And I didn't make copies of this for you. I apologize, and I can send you links. Can we chat for 10 minutes about, 20 minutes about, insert the challenge you're having? I need, insert things. You've blank, insert flattering statement of the fact they already have what you need. I want to talk to you because you're good at this. And I'm available on, insert 3 times. When I get an email from a student, from anybody that says, can we meet, period, or question mark, I'm annoyed, because I know that that's going to require at least 3 or 4 more emails just to set up the meeting. I post my schedule online. If I get an email that says, I see you are available at these times when I am also available, can we meet at one of them? That takes so much less of my attention. And then I have the time for the actual meeting. The second best is an email that's where they haven't found my schedule that says, I am available at these times. Are you available at any of them? And it's not that I don't want to meet with people, it's that those emails are boring. They don't do anything for me. Talking to a person, that's nice. Emailing about schedules, yeah. So in order to do this, can we chat for 20 minutes about, insert the challenge, I need, insert need? Could you articulate a particular challenge that you have faced at some point, or someone you know has faced?
Balancing all of the responsibilities that come along with being a pre-med student.
Too broad.
Okay.
What would your need be?
Finding ways to, I'm feeling insulted.
Well, but that's okay.
Okay, so finding ways to balance extracurriculars and my academics while taking an absurd number of hours.
And are you doing more extracurriculars than most med students?
I don't think so.
Okay. So this is, presumably people have thought about this before. That's good. What about you?
I guess the same thing, just be, kind of balancing. But I don't know. I haven't really encountered any issues, I guess.
How lovely.
Well, I don't mean that. I just don't know what I would bring up to someone. I don't know.
Okay.
Probably my issue.
And is that an issue of having trouble asking for help, or is that an issue of having trouble articulating the things that make it hard?
Maybe a little bit of both.
Okay. Both are valid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Addition?
I have trouble asking help. Yeah, I just wait for long time if I want to ask something.
Right. Okay, so that's a nice, straightforward, well-contained one, so I'll start with that. You can write to a professor, and any professor in your department. What department are you in? Hi. You can write to a professor, send them an email and say, I'm feeling a little bit lost in the program. Can we talk about, for computer science, you should say, can we talk about optimizing my long-term plan for my classes? Because we all think, as far as I can tell, we all optimize. I'm not sure I would do that for a neurology professor. I don't know. I only know one or two. But can we talk for 15 or 20 minutes? Do you have time on such and such day? And that's a pretty clear, what you need is somebody to sit down with the prerequisite chart and go through it with you. My schedule's online. Feel free to email me. So I could see for you writing and saying, I am feeling overwhelmed by the demands on my time. Do you have 20 minutes to chat about how you manage it? One of the problems with academic mentoring is that we're not trained as mentors. So what most people offer are anecdotes. They can be very, very helpful, or not. Oh, I have no problem because I only sleep 4 hours a night and I don't get sick. No, not me. I used to invite this fabulous mathematician / computer scientist named Maria Clave, and she would come and talk to whatever women in science group I had at the moment, like 3 or 4 different times. And I learned the first time that she only sleeps 4 hours a night and she doesn't get sick. She now is president of Harvey Mudd College, and they have 50-some% of their computer science majors are women. Yeah. She's amazing. But she has 4 or 5 extra hours a day. And some of her advice was useful. When she had kids, she just dropped all of her friends who didn't have kids, and all of her social life involved the kids so that she could double dip on kids and social. So play dates. And various other things that weren't very useful to me because I don't have kids. But, so I'm saying anecdotes may or may not help, but that's what you're going to get. And you may have to ask several people, and you may get advice that's not useful now but will be useful later. It's a hard one. The answer is, as far as I understand for you two, is you're just not going to get enough sleep for the next 10 years. Oh well. Yeah. And still, what you really want to know is what can you skimp on, isn't it? If I have to sacrifice something, what is it? And maybe that's the need, is that information. Is there anything I can say? Instead of what can I think probably, is there anything is probably safer. For you at this point, just one mentor?
Basically my PI, so now he's guided me very well, but 10 years ago when I first came in, I didn't have, but I didn't know that there was a problem too.
Right.
So for many years, so I mean that's what I'm saying to the undergraduates in the lab now, so just approach people and ask for help, even though it stopped at the beginning. So.
And telling them ask for help is useful up to a point, but telling them what kind of help they can get. So my next question is, how can you mentor someone?
I think that I was Simcast mentoring, so I mentor like 14 girls who are in STEM majors. And I think for me, it was looking back on my freshman year and realizing where I struggled and telling them how to get past those so that they don't have to go through what I went through to know what I know now. That's the point of the mentor in my position.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I kind of agree with that, just kind of putting yourself in their shoes and reflecting on, because we've been through, if you're going to be a mentor, you've been through the trials and tribulations that they are currently about to face. So it's just reflecting back. And
Are you trained at all as a mentor?
Lifetime of experience.
So you have information to share, but no training on how to most effectively share it?
Well, we also take a class that's designed to help us in our leadership positions. And we also collaborate with one another and our teacher who assists us with different issues.
Oh, that's fabulous. What?
It's an arts and sciences class. I'm not really sure what it's called, like leadership and development. It's with Dr. Cecil.
Cool. We should coordinate with them. Are you in that also?
I'm not, no.
And you're not. So, I congratulate you. I applaud you. What you're doing is fabulous. Thank you. How can you mentor someone? What do you have to offer? As they hyperventilate.
Well, I guess just at this point, I don't know how good of a mentor I would be, especially with people my own age, but I guess just when you have more experience, you're able to mentor. Like if I went back to high school kids, I'd probably be a good mentor because I've been through that and I'm a little bit removed from it, so I could I don't know how to articulate this.
Okay.
But
I guess I think I kind of what Mel was saying was the fact that you've been through it, and we know how to cope with it and how to deal with it. So we can give them advice and stuff that we wish we knew when we were going through it.
Is it sometimes important just to get a listening ear, a non-judgmental ear?
I think so, yeah.
Wow, that sounds hard, that kind of ear. Could you do that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Who do you see around you who needs mentoring?
I think anyone can use a mentor at any given point. I mean, you're always going through something that you could use help with, so.
Mm-hmm. There are organizations for women in science on campus. There's SWE, Society of Women Engineers. I used to try and do a Women in Engineering group for students. I haven't in a while, but I'd kind of like to go back to that. And mostly it wasn't programs, it was just occasional pizza or cupcakes or something fattening. Just so that we would all be in the same room together. You are clearly doing mentoring right here. But I just want to point out that, going back to this picture, there are many roles for mentors, and some of it's information, and some of it's about coping strategies, and some of it's listening and giving emotional reassurance. And all of those are important. The people that I thought of as my mentors when I went through grad school were the mostly the two people that I wrote to when I had papers rejected. The two people that I found who would say reassuring things that I wasn't a total wash-up. Looking back, my advisor, with whom I fought loudly and in the halls, we were dramatic. She was a fabulous mentor, which I did not credit her with at the time. She gave me a lot of stuff that no one else's advisors gave, like talk to me about departmental process. I was her first PhD student. I was her sounding board when she was on the hiring committee. That was tremendously helpful. But I didn't give her credit for that because we were screaming at each other in the halls in between times. And your advisors aren't always going to be the people you like. You can give back, and it turns out to be a really satisfying thing to do. Yes? Yeah. What does it do for you?
It makes me feel useful. I like knowing that I am providing a service that I'm well capable of providing.
There are two things that really increase college students' self-efficacy, feeling of empowerment. One is mentoring and the other is research. And having had many research students in my lab, research doesn't always work. But it often does. I encourage you to do that. And we can talk a few minutes at the end about how you make that happen. But I encourage you to reach out, and given that you're in this class, women in STEM is something important to you, reach out to the other women, or to anybody you perceive as needing support. Someone who's first generation college goer, some person of color of any gender, somebody of indeterminate gender, or gay or disabled, or anything that makes them feel isolated. These are the people who will most appreciate. The confident white men, they need mentors too, but they're more likely to get them from elsewhere. And I do mentor confident white men occasionally, but they're not my focus. What about institutional programs? So we've got two examples here. We've got this class, and we've got your STEM cats, cat stems.
STEM cats.
Kind of like cat stems, I think it's the tail. So you've got the STEM cats. Does it work? Have you had any assigned advisees who decided you weren't the right one for them?
No. None who decided I was the wrong one for them. We've had people who decided STEM cats wasn't for them in general, but never a particular mentor.
And so they just drop out?
Yeah, because a lot of them, sometimes STEM cats doesn't provide what they were looking for, which is perfectly fine. Yeah.
What would happen if you got somebody assigned to you that just got up your nose somehow, that you really didn't want to be around?
It happens to a few of our mentors, and
I'm sure.
Where the class comes in, we receive a lot of guidance there, and ultimately you just keep persevering, because even if...
Why?
Well...
What a waste of your time.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have personnel issues to deal with when you have to, but you're a volunteer. I think the most important thing in setting up a mentoring program is the opt-out, because sometimes people just annoy us. or don't work. I mean, you can really think somebody's sweet, but they're assigned to be your mentor and they're giving you nothing useful. And reading these columns about faculty mentoring, people disagree. The author of the column said, find a way to make it work. Go in with questions clear questions you want answered. And somebody else wrote and said, no, it's wasting both people's time. Don't do it. I think you should have an opt-out. You should be able to gracefully say, I don't think I'm the right mentor for you. I don't think you're getting what you need here. Without it becoming a huge personal thing. There should be some mechanism that protects individuals from direct personal confrontation. So I can imagine someone who shows up and wants their mentor to do classwork for them or to do stuff for them that they need to do themselves. That's a pretty extreme example. But somebody who's totally entitled and they've always had people do for them. I taught at an Ivy League school for a couple of years and I met a lot of those. I went to an Ivy League school and I wasn't one of those, so not everybody is like that, but there are students. There are students here, just fewer of them. So you're stuck, you're assigned this person, and you don't want to say anything because they'll tell you that you're no good, and they will make you feel bad because they believe your job is to serve them. This is one scenario, not the only one. You shouldn't have to deal with that. If it's a program that's assigning mentors, it's a program that's supposed to see that they get mentoring, and what you're able to give, which is either denial of service or reluctant service, that's not helping. So I feel very strongly, and my feelings are supported by research from there is a foundation about mentoring women out of New York. And I have their pamphlets in a drawer in my office, but I can't think what they're called at the moment. I'll get back to you on that. Okay. Their work that I was reading 15 years ago said very strongly mentoring programs have to have graceful exits. So clearly I disagree with whoever set up your program. People disagree. There are different views. I have had disruptive students in class. Having a disruptive mentor in a mentoring group pulls the attention away from the other 13 students. That's what I think. I'm very glad to hear that yours are working out. And sometimes it's not even that the mentee is awful or the mentor is awful. Sometimes it's just chemistry, you know. They're missing. So when you're in a situation where somebody is giving you advice that's wrong, thank them very nicely. And sort of stick in the back of your mind that someday you might want to go back to them. So you exit as nicely as you can. But not all mentors are the right mentor for you. I was reading a grant proposal, and somebody, when you apply for a grant at the National Science Foundation, you have to make a case that your work will have broad impact. And a very useful reading of what NSF wants there is, your program director needs to be able to go to your congressperson and say, look, I'm funding this and it's good for America. And that could be any of many things. This particular proposer has mentored thousands of people through MentorNet, which is not MentorNet, which is that, but this is one word. So it's some email mentoring, and I'm thinking, how can you do that? I mean, does it count as mentoring if you come to me once and we go through it and that's the end? I don't think so. The proposal said that this person corresponds extensively. I'm thinking, wow, someone else who sleeps 2 hours a night, or has a program that writes their responses for them. But there are very different notions of mentoring. It could be an intense personal relationship, and it can be somebody you email a few times a year. And you might have both. Do you have questions? So my last question, and all of you are in mentoring relationships as the mentee. Sounds like a after-dinner mint. What can you give to your mentor?
I guess if you and your mentor have a good relationship, they get that pride out of it of knowing that they helped someone. I don't know. That can be really,
I think that being transparent about certain aspects of certain parts, certain issues, I suppose, that you're going to them about. If you find success, tell them about that.
Yes.
If you find issues, tell them as well. They can't do anything if they don't know these things.
So tell them that you're successful because a little tiny bit it's their success. And we don't get enough successes, we just don't. So any little bit you can add. Being clear on what you want so that they can feel like they're giving you what you need. Being clear about what you need and what you want. And knowing that those aren't the same necessarily. Sometimes I need somebody to be harsh with me, but I sure don't want it. As a middle-aged person, I mentee people 30 years younger than me and more. And it's kind of fun. They get to have those successes that I did or didn't have earlier. And I get to revisit that feeling of success if I did, or it satisfies the want if I didn't before. And it's really nice. So it really does give something back if you tell them. I get emails occasionally from students from years before that say, I just wanted you to know that I thought of your class the other day. That's fabulous. You can do that for any professor, not just the ones who are your mentors. A note to somebody back in Sri Lanka saying, I am successful and I think of you will make somebody's day. So I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to reach out, both to the mentors with clear questions. And sometimes the clear question is, I feel overwhelmed, I don't know where to start, can you help me figure out what I need? That's valid. That is completely valid. I need something, I don't know what, and if you can, I think of that kind of feeling of need as a tangle of yarn or thread. And if you can find an end, if you can find something and untangle a little, it feels better, even if most of it's still a knotted ball. But tell them at the end of the 10, 20, 30-minute session, that's good. I have this now. So they don't take on your ball, because too many of us take on other people's issues. I'm going to tell you a quick story. I was at a conference last month, and I was sitting there reading email in a corner, and I saw a young man walk up to a young woman, and he said to her, "What's your role in all this?" There were maybe 10% women at the conference, maybe fewer. And I'm thinking, that's really aggressive and obnoxious. And she said, "I don't know what you mean." He said, "Are you a student?" And then he started hitting on her. She's like, "Really, dude? You think this is going to work?" And I said something. I don't even remember what I said, but I think I said, "She doesn't really need this attention from you," or something really blunt, and he went away. And she thanked me, and we talked for a while. Didn't think much of it. Later, she talked about the man in her lab who was also at the conference and described him. And later, I saw her and another woman and the guy from her lab, and he was saying, "I feel so insecure. I'm not as good as that person over there." And the two women were fussing over it. Took her aside and said, "So you're going to spend your time at this conference where you could meet the people whose papers you've read, trying to take care of his emotional needs? Don't do that." Totally aggressive. Totally none of my business. But sometimes you just jump in. Most of the time not. And don't do it in your own department till you have tenure. Or at least don't blow someone off until you have tenure. But occasionally it's good to say something. No. I'm Judy Goldsmith. You can find me online. You Google my name, you get this picture of me with a lot of makeup on. That's me. Grease paint. Question? Did you? So if you have questions, feel free to email me. I will get back to you. And if I don't, it means that I didn't get the email. If I don't get back to you in 2-3 days. So, thank you, and
Thank you.
Thank you.
with pleasure.